I remember you having like sort of a passing enjoyment of it, but it wasn't like you didn't like have the battle gear or anything like that, or the cards or anything.
Don't go that far.
Welcome to Video Game Podtimism. It's the Optimists video game variety show where two best friends talk about the wonderful world of gaming. My name is Chase.
And my name is David. Chase is doing a cold intro because he wants to get through this podcast because he's been playing so much Pal World.
This is simply not true. We just had a very mature discussion about how we're not going to play Pal World until we understand the topic fully. Here David is, under minute one, being like, hey man, doesn't that bus look really cool over there? Would be so sick if I just hurled you in there.
I'm just trying to make sure you're on your toes right now. I'm Kato. I'm Kato right now.
I'm here. I am fully present. I'm locked in to podcasting and gaming.
Yes. He has not been playing Pal World, just to be clear, everyone.
No.
He has not been. I will confirm this. I was joking earlier.
I've been reading a lot about Pal World, but I have not enjoyed Pal World.
Nerd. Reading about a game.
I know, dude. Like, what is it even coming to anymore?
I mean, you're doing the responsible thing.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
You're being an ethical consumer, potentially.
Am I? I don't know anymore, man. It's all bad.
It's all, yeah. Was it like the good place where it's like, how do you be a good person in our society?
There's no ethical consumption under capitalism, David. Listen. We're already 90 seconds in. We're already here. This is Podtimism. We're here for good feelings.
I'm sorry. You're right. I saw how to mess with you, and I took the chance, and I derailed it a little bit. So I apologize.
I'm on my toes.
Continue with what you're going to say.
You're prodding for weakness over there. You're giving me like jabs in certain parts of my body.
I'm
to be
just
like,
trying to make sure that
awake?
this is exactly. I'm trying to make sure this is an airtight cast, right?
A quality product.
Yeah, this is the hacker testing the defense of whatever internet site. I don't know. There's no good internet site defense, so you just win regardless if you're the hacker, I would think.
Yeah,
but
baby.
Anyways,
trying to hack into podtimism.com, our website.
Don't tell me how bad the security is. I don't want to know.
There's not a lot to secure in there. It's just a link to other places. Hey, I would love to hear about what video games you're playing, David.
Yes, I have been playing video games, and they have been enjoyable, Chase.
I would love. I want to hear. Tell me.
The first one I want to talk about is Horizon Forbidden West.
Hello there. This is Chase after the fact. I'm recording this and editing it. What a fun time I'm having. I hope you're enjoying the show. Just a little heads up. David is about to spoil a significant amount of Horizon Forbidden West. And I'm not talking like names of characters. I'm talking like full-blown endgame spoilers. So, hey, if that's something you care about, this is your little opportunity to check your chapter markers or the timestamps that are in the description, and just pop on ahead if you really want to hear what's going on firsthand in your playthrough with Aloy. This right here is me giving you some time to fumble with your phone, and go do that. I hope your day is going well, and that you have a really good lunch today. Gosh, isn't the Wii shopping music somehow incredibly good? The next Switch should have music for its shop again. It's just silent in the current Switch. They should bring back music like it's a Target in 2006. Please. Thank you, Nintendo. I hope that's enough time. Here comes a good discussion of Horizon Forbidden West and also a lot of spoilers about that game. Okay, bye. Yes, this is your long quest of a game that you're kind of enjoying.
Yes, it's been a very interesting road with this game. I beat it, and looking at the game in its entirety now, I understand it quite a bit more, and I think I understand what or how they decided to make the game didn't resonate with me, and I think that they could have done it a couple different ways, or maybe they had too many ideas. And I think that it would have been better if they went just with one of those instead of trying to do all of them. So I think the first thing I want to say is there were too many big villains in the game. There was Regala. Regala was she's in the beginning. That is
I saw her. Yeah,
she is the rebel leader for the Tanakh. And then there was essentially like a Ted Faro clone, I think, of some sort, or a guy who thought he was Ted Faro from a distant land. who sucked. Silence.
Yeah. Who is also the kind of like, or not protagonist, but like on again, off again friend in the first one.
Yes.
Or like maybe just antagonist in the first one.
Like mostly enemy, but kind of frenemy as well. Yeah. Not trying to kill you at the very least, it seems, for the most part.
Yeah.
The Zeniths, who are the humans who went way across space and are immortal and have now come back. And then a fifth enemy who is revealed at the end of the game, who's setting up for the third game. So I think there was just too many moving enemies.
Yeah, sure.
Was I think the first thing that turned me off. And I think that if they had just focused on the Ted Faro wannabe guy as being the enemy of this game, that would have been so much more enjoyable for me, because he was a great character. He was so annoying and awful that he was just so easy to root against. I'm just like, you have to own this character and stay with that more, I think. And I think that when you have a character like that who is just so completely ridiculous is when I connect a lot more with Aloy, because her snark, her like natural snarkiness is like, oh yeah, get that guy. That guy sucks. Yeah. He's awful. As opposed to when she's directing it towards tribes people who kind of don't know any better than her about like the world and are just kind of ignorant, when she's being snarky to them about what she knows and she knows they don't know. It just makes her come off as seeming kind of like holier than thou and mean a little bit. It's
very bizarre. Yeah. I feel like that was a weird part of the game where I was like, Aloy, like, please stop like berating these people.
Exactly. Right. It's like, you can, like, I'm fine berating people who are willfully ignorant or, you know, completely and totally full of themselves and just like who think that they are the reincarnation of a god essentially and can do no wrong. That's great. Aloy, get that person. I love it when you tear that person apart. It feels good. Yes. But when it's, you know, someone who is clearly kind of scared, and then that fear is coming out in an aggressive way, which is clear, and then she is then like not helping in that at all. Is kind of sad to see, I guess. But
it feels like there's a little bit of cruelty in there.
Yeah, it does.
Why are we doing this?
Exactly, right? That does get somewhat resolved by the end of the game. She comes around to seeing that like the value of the people living in the world now, which, you know, was never really something that was stated that she didn't see the value in them, which I think they were trying to go with an unstated story. Which I like those, but I think that they tried to make that unsaid statement so obvious in the beginning of the game that it just was like, it just felt strange seeing Alo being so kind of mean to these folks who are, you know, admittedly ignorant and don't know the ways of the world, but, you know, you could do a little bit more to like meet with them on their level at the same time.
It seems like they were trying to show, not tell, but the things they were showing were just like kind of Aloy being really mean. Yeah.
And I think it would have been like, maybe she had a little bit more internal monologue going if she was, you know, confiding with people who she felt close with, these emotions she was having. But they made it like across the board, anyone that she was interacting with was not someone that she could trust or count on. So you never got that. So I don't know if maybe they sowed those seeds in the expansion for the first game, which I never played that. But to start off the game like that was jarring, to say the least, because it wasn't how I remembered her from the first game. I remembered her being like, you know, the outcast. And I think that if they had played into that a bit more, with her being the outcast and now being also now seen as a hero, I think the interplay between those two things could have been interesting of, okay, you all hated me before, but now I give you something and now you love me. If they had touched on that a bit more, like this resentment feeling could have smoothed that transition a bit better.
I think both are speaking to her isolation in a lot of ways.
Exactly.
And I think that there is a good side to, or a good angle on that. But I agree with you that like it was rare for me to see the soft side of Aloy, because at no point did I believe like she's just an asshole now. I didn't really think that, but that was mostly on the back of me playing the first one. Like you rarely see that of her saying, like, trying to be like, can I trust this person? Will they let me down? Right. I think it would have been pretty cool for them to, and maybe this happens, I don't know, but for her to try and trust someone and them to fuck it up really badly.
Yeah.
Because then you as the viewer are like, I wish it didn't go that way. And now she's got like ammunition for saying like, here's why I can't trust anybody and why I can't rely on anyone.
Yeah.
And then, you know, of course you can turn that around eventually, but like, I feel like most of the time she just kind of outwardly rejected any help. And yeah, you're right. It did kind of feel like it is speaking to isolation, but a lot of it is just on her own choice. Like she's choosing to isolate herself a lot of the time.
Absolutely. She's not accepting any of the help that people are trying to give her.
Yeah.
And when she does, it's kind of begrudgingly.
Yeah.
And, she does have this moment early in the game where, she almost dies. And then Varl, who from the first game, comes and saves her.
Right.
And then she's like, okay, I'm going to try and bring this guy into the fold because he's just, and not really because I trust him, but because it still comes from this feeling of if I don't bring him in, then I can't protect him. I think a lot of what, at least by the end of the game, they were trying to characterize this as was that she cares so much that she doesn't want anyone to put themselves in danger to risk their lives for what she views as her mission, which, it's the end of the world. So it's everyone's mission, it should be.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where they're going with that. But then also the first person that she lets in, Varl, also ends up dying in the game in front of her. And there's definitely this moment where she's like, oh, wow, I really, obviously she feels responsible for it in a way because he wouldn't have been in that situation if, he wasn't helping her. They don't necessarily show her coming to terms with that and getting to that conclusion. So, and then once again, it's that showing, not telling sort of storytelling, but it makes it more nebulous and a little confusing when you're doing that in an open world game with these characters and these very complex relationships and so many different relationships and characters in the game that keep showing up and changing how everyone interacts together. So yeah, I think it's just too many characters, pare it down a little bit and maybe do a little bit more telling and not just show. Could have made that feel better.
I guess if you're not going to do a good job showing, you can tell if you need to.
Exactly, right?
I think it just takes so much confidence to do that. The games that I think of that are very confident in that way and do hit the mark are the God of War 2018 is very confident in showing where there will be multiple seconds of you just looking at Kratos' face as he's thinking or responding to something. Yeah. And that you can see whatever he's feeling a lot of the time, or whether it's I don't want to do this, or there's something I regret in this situation, or, I'm having conflicted emotions about something that's happening right now, which is hard. That's a hard thing to do specifically in a video game. You may have to directly facial capture that thing, but it does go a long way. And it sounds like a lot of the scenes that you're describing where you're did she grapple with that or not? I wonder if it would have been helped by just letting the camera linger on her and see what she's feeling.
Yeah. And I think that might go back to there's too many people and things because there's just so much that needs to be explained and introduced that you don't have that time to kind of breathe and sit with one interaction that just happened. Yeah. So yeah, I think that it was very ambitious. I think was what they were going for. Yeah. And I'd rather a game company be ambitious with what they're doing than not try. I just don't know if it hit the mark as far as the storytelling went. And, to Aloy's defense, it did make more sense at the end. She did have a little monologue at the end after everything had resolved. She chose literally to stay on Earth and help people at the end of the game. So that was nice to see, and even convinced Silence to do the same for the third game. So, she's obviously going okay, yeah, people have value. People can help me, right? It's not just me helping people, which is, I guess, was the thesis of what they were trying to get at in the game, but just got a little muddied for me. And then the other thing I want to mention is that how good this one level was where you go into Ted Pharaoh's tomb and it's essentially just a billionaire's apocalypse bunker. And it is all stylized as an Egyptian pharaoh's tomb. Right, has this big statue of him, gold statue of him in this room, and you go around and you're collecting all this information and logs about just kind of how things went to shit in there as well, because this guy's completely egotistical and nuts, and doesn't realize it, and thinks he's a lot smarter than he is. Once again, love it when they put on blast essentially a guy who I think is analogous to Elon Musk.
Really any generic self-centered billionaire. Yeah,
you had Elon Musk as Ted Pharaoh, and then the leader of the Zenith is spot on, looks like Jeff Bezos, just Space Bezos, essentially, which was really funny to me. Yeah. But this level was so good, and it just reminded me how much I loved the first one, because you have this very different environment of a world that is so understandable to us, and people are so understandable to us, being interacted with and interpreted by people who have no context for that whatsoever. And it was really, really great. That sense of discovery, of what happened in the past, how these people ended up there. And then also it was more of a set piece with a small group of folks that really let it shine to me. And I feel like, I don't know, maybe this is my bias, but I want more like Uncharted as opposed to Assassin's Creed in this game. Give me a little bit more of the actiony set pieces where you can really show off this beautiful world you've created and really juxtapose the past and the future, or the past and the present, I guess, in that game. Because, man, that level was really good. And there's a really nice surprise where you find out what happened to Ted Faro in the end. Really good. So, and I think just in general, the last hour or two of the game of like actual story missions were actually quite good. So I think the rest of the game, it felt like the game took a long time to ramp up and get to the part where it really was all working together, which is kind of when you get to San Francisco and you meet the Quen, who are the tribe from across the ocean who comes over, and they have the Ted Faro guy who's like their leader, and they call him CO, which is CEO. Yeah, I was reading that. That's so good. And that's the kind of stuff I love about this game and this series, is more stuff like that. Post-apocalyptic future, interpreting the past, and which is our present. I think it's just so much more interesting and engaging than, necessarily the politics, the different tribes of that time that they are creating, right? Yeah, I just thought that the Quen were a really cool addition to the game, and I wanted more of them, right? I wanted it to kind of start maybe with bringing in the Quen and bringing in this Ted Faro character and having him be more of a part of the game as like an early antagonist, right? Because I really enjoyed how punchable that guy's face was. That's really good. But overall, I do think that the ending of the game redeems it quite a bit. Yeah. I would not necessarily say that I definitely wouldn't say it was as enjoyable as the first one. I really loved the first one. And this one definitely has its problems, but it's still, I do still have some excitement for the third one to see if they can not right the ship, but just kind of smooth out the edges a little bit, because I do think that somewhere there is a good game here, but I think in there's a very good game, and maybe just some of the components needed to be just slid into different areas and then just changed a tiny bit to make it just feel more cohesive. And I think that's really what it misses, is cohesion. Yeah, more than anything else.
I feel like the first one's pace was so well done. Yeah, in so many ways, where it was like, I feel like at any given moment I was just so interested in like what is happening
exactly
in this world. And I agree, even in the places that I was, like a lot of the time I'm like, I understand what I'm doing overall, but I'm a little bit less interested in like kind of the main thrust of the story.
You don't have that pull.
Yeah. Whereas in the first one, it was always clear, like I have to unravel this mystery of what's going on here.
Exactly.
And I don't think that's like necessarily a burn on this one. They're trying to do different stuff. And it's also like, how would you ever do the same kind of mystery again? Like you've already kind of had the world explained to you of why things are the way they are. And so it is kind of like hard to imagine doing that again. But yeah, I hope that they're able to rely a little bit more on like the mystery of what's going on. Yeah. In the third one, or at least like make the pace such that I'm really driven to like figure out what's going on, or just at least continue moving through the main story.
Yeah. And they could definitely go very sci-fi in the third one as well. Yes. And just really change it up with how they ended this one, which could be an interesting way of taking it too. So we'll see. But overall, yeah, it was an enjoyable game. Has its warts, has its problems. But I mean, raise your hand if you don't, right? So
Fuck yeah, dude. We're getting a message at the end of this,
right?
This little bit.
That's how it goes. So yeah, I'm still excited for the third one, but yeah, this one was an interesting experience.
Yeah, cool.
I have also been playing Nobody Saves the World.
Nobody Saves the World. This is the like top-down kind of Zelda-y game that came out like I think 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was 1 or 2 years ago. It's made by Drinkbox Studios, who also did Guacamelee. Yes, which I very much enjoyed, and their art style definitely pops out immediately in this game. I love whoever is doing their art there. It's so vibrant and enjoyable to look at. It just is a pleasure on the eyes. And I love how funny it is. I love all the jokes and the different small asides that they have in their games also. And that definitely carries over from Guacamelee 2 to this one. Yeah. Definitely a very funny game. And I enjoyed the combat too. The gameplay is pretty fun. I was not expecting this type of game when I loaded it up, but it's a very fun kind of Zelda-like with an interesting mechanic of transforming into all sorts of different things and creatures and being able to upgrade them and unlock new powers and weapons and stuff.
Yeah, it's almost like if in like Mario Odyssey, your transformations were like permanent. Like you could continue to change into the things, or I think it's just on my mind because I played it recently, but the Castlevania Dawn of Arya or Dawn of Sorrow games where you kill enemies and can turn into them after that. It's like, I can't remember what they all are in Nobody Saves the World, but it's like a mouse or like a horse or something like that that you can turn into. And
you got a rat, a ranger, a soldier so far, an egg, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I haven't gotten the egg yet, but it says egg on the next one that I can unlock. And I'm very curious to see how that one works.
It's very cool. I feel like they nest a bunch of like, I don't know, like secrets and all that stuff where it's like, here are all these weird forms and like, how do you use them? Or like how even the ones that are like seemingly totally useless.
Yeah.
How do you, what do you do with that? Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah, and I really like how they incentivize you to use the different forms by giving you quests, essentially being like, kill 250 enemies with this move, which gives you power-ups and points to upgrade everything. So it really encourages you to play pretty much every form, and every form has its uses too. Yeah, which is impressive. And I really like this studio. I think is what it comes down to. They're very inventive with how they come at games. Art style and the writing, I think, are exceptional. And I love how varied their control schemes are in all their games. They give you a lot of different ways to play their games. Like Guacamelee 2, you can switch from morning to night. That changes the world and how you can interact with it. You can become a chicken. That changes how you interact with the world, right? You have all these different moves you can upgrade. And it seems deceptively small, but is actually big. And I feel like that's kind of what this game is starting to feel like to me too. Big overworld, lots of different moves, lots of different dungeons to explore, and I'm just having a blast with it so far.
I liked this one too. It's a very Ding Boy game in the way that it like incentivizes you to like level up a bunch of different characters.
Also, shout out to the Ding Boy hot pants.
I know, that was so funny.
With the sunflowers on them.
Yeah, somebody in the Discord had mocked up some potential Ding Boy merch, which was compelling, I gotta say. It looks great.
Now the question is, what's on the front of the shorts?
Yeah, that is sort of a mystery. There's the mystery. Aura. There's a bit of a threat, right? Like what could possibly go on the front?
Oh man, yeah. We'll let the viewers decide, the listeners decide on that one.
Yeah, no, I like this game a lot too. I feel like it got lost in the shuffle a little bit because if I remember correctly, that was like the first game that came out that year. I think it was 2022. It wasn't last year because it wasn't really in the like game of the year conversation, but I do think it was 2 years ago. But yeah, it was such an early release that I feel like it just got lost in the conversation once it was time for like GOTY and like just the discussions about all that stuff.
Yeah, how it goes. But was that going to be like Prince of Persia this year? Yeah, 2022.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm still playing that game and I think it is really good. And so I hope it is able to like have the longevity that it deserves.
Gotcha. I've also been playing Chase.
Yeah.
I'm a P. Lies of P.
Lies of P. Okay, great.
So yeah, I finally decided to start this one up, and man, it's such a ripoff of Bloodborne, dude. I can't believe. I really hope you've played it because I know how much you love Bloodborne, but you're like, you have to just know, Chase. It's a blatant. It's like Pal World, but with Bloodborne.
This joke will simply never die.
I think it won't die because it still gets a rise out of you every now and then.
It sure does.
And yeah, I think that's what keeps it going. So sorry if anyone is getting tired of me accosting Chase with this joke, but
that's part of the friendship, baby.
It's part of the friendship. It's part of the friendship. But I really enjoy this game.
Yes. Yeah.
I think it's really exceptionally well made. It does not feel like a ripoff to me, but like a love letter to this style of game. Whereas like the monsters in Pal World, different story, right? But I won't touch on that too much. But and I do think, and I know you've talked about, do I hear the voice of the game creator through this, the developer through this? And I mean, I'm too early to say, but
sure.
I think the first thing that I'm hearing right now is we love FromSoft games and we want to make one that's kind of our fan-made version of it because you can see so many different ideas from different FromSoft games in this one coalescing together. Yeah. Whereas FromSoft kind of keeps, Dark Souls games play like Dark Souls, Bloodborne does its own thing, Sekiro did its own thing.
Yeah.
Whereas they were like, let's just take all of our favorite parts from all those games and roll it into one and see how that works. And I think it works really damn well, honestly.
Yeah.
And I always forget how just buttery smooth this game plays too. It is optimized so well. And I think that is something that they might do better than FromSoft.
Certainly Bloodborne.
Yeah.
Bloodborne, you cannot play over than 30 frames per second.
Yeah, FromSoft, I love you, but man, like when I get to play a game that feels so much like one of yours in a very smooth, like 60 frames per second, ooh, it really does just kind of take it to the next level, because I'm not trying to like squint to make out if that's like a stink boy in the corner trying to come at me, or if it's just like a bush, right? But I'm really enjoying this game, because I played it, the demo, when it came out, and I was very impressed with it, and just never got around to downloading the full thing, just because I've had so many games to play last year. And I think I'm hitting one of those moments where I'm just like, I'm ready for a Souls-like game.
Yeah, sure.
And it just felt so nice to get back into that style of gameplay that it just fits like a glove and just gets me into that state of flow like no other. But yeah, it's a joy to play. It's a pleasure. And I think you mentioned that they had changed how like the dodging and some of the like timing worked between the demo and now. And boy, does that make it feel a lot better.
It really did. Yeah. I remember the difference being like, okay, no, I'm locked in pretty early.
Yeah. I was like, I had struggled pretty bad with some of the first bosses in that game on the demo, but this time was like first time through, done.
Yeah, no problem.
Easy peasy, let's go. It's time to perfect block everything, perfect guard everything, I should say. But yeah, I'm really excited to see what else this game has in store with different levels and different bosses. I think that they're obviously very creative in how they've designed this world and these creatures you're fighting. So I'm pumped to see what they have in store. Yeah,
and I will say the first couple levels are the most derivative of the rest of the game. Like,
sure.
Or let me say that differently. The first levels are the ones that represent other games the most, whereas like the latter like half, or even like the latter 2/3 are like, this does feel like something different for the most part. So
okay.
I really do like all that. And if you're enjoying it now, I feel like it really only gets better.
Awesome.
And like, to be clear, I agree with everything you said. It's a very fun game. I really like it.
I know.
Yeah.
I know you enjoyed it.
I'm a lot less saying that to you specifically and just like just saying it out loud for my own sake. Because it's just like it's such a complicated feeling, you know, like, and I suspect that the line that it moved over for me, that line is different for everybody, you know, like it's not something that, I don't know, like I feel like everybody can agree, like, hey, the monsters all look pretty similar in Pal World to Pokemon, right? Like,
yeah,
that's pretty agreed upon.
Yeah,
you know,
that's Electabuzz with a gun.
Yes, whether or not you think that that's a bad thing is a different question, but like, we can all sort of agree that yes, that is a thing. Whereas, like, I agree with you that some of it feels like FromSoft, and it kind of feels like the greatest hits of FromSoft. But other times you're like, no, this is its own thing too. Like, there is other stuff going on in here that is specific to this game, and so it's a lot muddier of a picture for me to decipher.
Yeah,
which is what makes the take feel like it has to be nuanced to me.
No, absolutely.
Fun game though. Again, I beat it. I played the whole thing.
Yeah. And I don't think it would be hackle raising if it wasn't so good.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, there can be derivative games, and if they're bad, I'm like, cool, I'm not going to play it. That's fine. But this one's really good.
Yeah.
So it is really challenging to kind of absorb what it's doing.
Yeah. But pretty impressive for a young game studio to put this out.
Yeah, totally. It's really well done.
But that's all I've been playing. Chase, what have you been playing?
I got mostly 2 games. Just real quick, I am still playing Prince of Persia. It's still very good and very fun, but I have nothing new to say about it. So there.
So don't ask.
So don't ask me, okay? The other 2 things that I have been playing, the first of them is this game called No Sun to Worship.
Oh.
So this is a game from the studio Merlino Games, and so far as I can tell, it's mostly just one dude named Antonio Freire, I think is how you'd say it. I had seen this game like floating around Twitter for a little while. That dude is fairly on Twitter, and so I see him posting stuff about his games fairly regularly, and just like aesthetically, I was like, hey, this looks like my thing.
Yeah.
It is a stealth game that seems to be pulling a lot from like Metal Gear Solid and Splinter Cell. Like both of those games in a lot of ways, like just visually, right? It's a sneaking game, and a lot of the time you're kind of crouched and slowly moving from cover to cover. It has the little meters that Splinter Cell had, where it'll show you like on a bar how visible you are, like how cloaked in shadow, or like how much noise you're making when you're running around, which is really cool. I forget how much I loved Splinter Cell.
Good game.
Specifically Chaos Theory. I was just fucking crazy about that game. I thought it was so good in a way that like I don't really know that I was fully appreciating at the time. Looking back, and again, I haven't played it in a long time, but it felt like at the time that it was like almost approaching an immersive sim with the sheer amount of like things I could do.
Sure.
To get through a place. It seemed like there were just a million different ways into a space and a million different ways to attack people or hide or, you know, set up some complex like Rube Goldberg machine to kill one person, pull them down the crate that you're hiding in or something, and like try and pull somebody else into the room, like that kind of stuff. And so I was pretty excited just to be like back in that kind of a mechanical experience, because it's just not really something that a lot of people have done, right? Like stealth games are not a horribly popular thing these days. Yeah. I don't see a lot of games that are in the stealth genre. And not only that, but just like taking after specifically Metal Gear Solid and Splinter Cell, that's like a cool thing for me to be like, nice, I like that. So I was interested for a while and just happened to be like, I would actually like to play this now and talk about this week, because I was a little light on games. And this one was self-described as short, minimalist, if you will.
Okay.
It like in the Steam description, it is described as, quote, a short minimalist stealth action game about the importance of art.
Whoa.
That tagline got me. I was like, I'm in. Like, go ahead. Like, do whatever you want to do. And like just high level stuff. The stealth, super fun. Really into the stealth stuff. Like I was saying, it really harkens back to a different era of games that I think is underrepresented, and not because it is like too old, you know? I don't think that those kind of mechanics are just like aged out. I don't think that's the case. I just think that like we haven't really been making games like that for a while. Yeah. And so it's nice to be back in that space. Essentially, the way the game works is that you will load into a level. I think there's like 6 or 7 levels, and each of them have a certain number of like, they don't label them as targets or hostages, but that's pretty much what they are. And your job is to punish them, which is to say, kill them. And so you're sneaking around these like facilities, and there are like a number of little crosshair targets that you can just see pretty much at all times. And they are directing you towards like, hey, here's, you know, the 5 targets in this level. Yeah. And there's a bunch of like guards that are in your way. So you have to either, you know, sneak past them or go up and grab them and kill them to pass, or, you know, draw them over to a certain area and use your little silenced pistol to shoot them and, you know, move past them that way. But yeah, it's like mostly straightforward as far as you get into a level, you kill these people, and then you move on to the next one. You find like an exit and then leave. And that's the level. Pretty straightforward, like all things considered. I think that when I'm thinking about Splinter Cell or Metal Gear Solid, that there is a fair amount of complexity in like what your mission is at any given point. And especially in Splinter Cell, which it seems like this game is pulling from a little bit more, the like mission changes multiple times during a level. Sometimes it's like you have to extract this person, or there's some kind of constraints around like you can't kill anybody here, or you know, can't hurt any civilians or something like that. And so there's just a lot going on in that way. But here it is pretty streamlined as far as what your goals are at any point. But yeah, high level, really like all that. The game also has like a lot, or it is doing a lot to set like mood and tone, just like visually. The character designs are all very like intense and intimidating looking. The areas that you're in are very like cold and metallic. The lighting is oftentimes like in a similar way to Splinter Cell, where a lot of that game's push, and especially the first one, was that like, look at all the cool lighting we can do on the fresh new Xbox that we have. It is using that aesthetic a lot of times, where there will be like one single source of light coming down from the top of an area that you can kind of like sneak around and move past. And it's like kind of a beautiful thing to see your character like shrouded under this grate that has like little rows of lights that are shining down onto you. And so I just think like vibe and mood wise, it is doing a lot in a way that like communicates a lot. I don't know that it's saying like specific story beats necessarily, you know, like when people talk about environmental storytelling in something like Gone Home or something like that, a lot of the time you are receiving information about the story via the house, right? Like, sure, you can see that this thing is placed over here, which you can infer means something else. Whereas I think the mood and the tone that this game is setting with its place is more feelings rather than plot beats, which is totally fine. That's cool too. Like, I think it is, it's very interested in that. And so I like the way that it does it. Let's see. So the game story, so surreal. I have no idea what's going on.
It's one of those games.
Yes.
All right.
And in a way that I think is really fun to look at, because it is so surreal and so strange that I think it is asking you to do a little bit of like interpretation, you know? Just to kind of lay out what I mean, the game opens with this, it looks like real world war footage of like World War II era things, kind of like weapons tests and like video of Nagasaki and Hiroshima and stuff like that. And there's this voiceover of this person saying kind of vague stuff, but what I felt like was the stronger beat of that text was, quote, "We painted the sky ashen gray, burned the heavens to starve each other. Now we walk an endless cemetery of regret."
Whoa.
I think commenting on just like, you know, war and how we sort of like fuck each other up just to do all that, which is, again, very Metal Gear Solid. That is an extremely Metal Gear Solid thing to do, to comment on war and specifically to use real world war footage to do that, to like emphasize that point.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I was like, okay, hey, what's up? I see you. The next thing that happens is on screen, there is this text. And I think based on the color of the text, you are supposed to interpret this as a conversation. But what it says is, "They made me in their image, but I am not." And then another person, "The experiment has failed. We must begin again. A full restart is required." Then the other person, "Don't destroy it. Deliver the world to me. I am fresh. I am new. I will remedy their faults." And then the other voice says, "Then prove your worth." And that's when the game like starts, right? And then the first thing that it has you do is like, it shows you one of those people with the bags on their heads and, you know, just says punish. And you're presumably supposed to kill this person.
Whoa.
I didn't initially, because I was like, I wonder if I'm not supposed to, like, if that's the thing with this game. But I like ran around, found the exit, and it's like, no, dude, you got to go kill everybody. Like, that's the video game.
Dang.
So I was like, all right, well, I'll play along. Anyway, I'm going to spoil the end of this game, but spoil is kind of a strong word to use for what happens, because it is very bizarre. But after you've done about 6 or 7 of these levels of doing pretty much that, the same like color of text comes back on the screen, and it says, "It is done." And then there is a response that says, "And in doing so, you have destroyed meaning. Life is nothing without meaning. We must start anew."
Whoa. Whoa.
Right. Whoa. So I think the game is asking you to do some interpretation here.
Chase is holding his head. Both hands to the head saying this.
I had to like sit and think about what's going on here, which is cool. I like games that do that. But like, the text of the game is not giving you very much. You really do have to kind of like lean in and look at like, all right, what's happening here? And so like my read on what is going on here, and could be wrong. I'm not sure that there is a right, but you know, there could be holes in this theory. But I think if we're looking at this game under the guise of like montage, like literally the definition of that, of showing you an image and then showing you another image and you connecting those two between your brain, right? Like showing you an egg at like just a regular egg and then showing you a scrambled egg or a breakfast or something. Your brain connects that, I bet that first egg was used to make that breakfast, right? Not necessarily, you didn't see it, but that's how like just regular fucking movie making works.
I ate that raw.
Yeah, I ate that raw, and then there was another breakfast I ate at Denny's. That was a different thing, you dingus. But if we were looking at that definition, then like maybe that like the someone in the beginning could be the character that you're playing, this like green voice who says like, you know, I'm different. I'm going to, what was the word they used? Remedy their faults, right? That could be the character you're playing, speaking to maybe their creator, maybe somebody that they're talking to. It's very unclear. There's also these hints at some point that like the main character that you're playing as is maybe a clone or something. Again, very Metal Gear Solid. And the only information you get about that is that you see your character model like in a production line somewhere. So like there's more of you, I guess, but who knows? Yeah, right. Like it's not explaining anything to you, but regardless, you're shown that information. They seem to be kind of optimistic about their influence that they're going to have on the world. And then right after that, you do all these levels where you do kind of a lot of violence to people.
Kind of.
And then at the end, it says you've destroyed meaning. And so like, I think it is asking you to sit in the seat of someone who is maybe naive about or idealistic about how much influence they're going to have on the world. They end up kind of repeating the same cycles that have got them there. And then, at the end of it all, what do you have to show for it, right? Like you have just continued this cycle. Mm-hmm. If I'm interpreting the role of these people that you're, murking in this game, there are a lot of other combatants that you can fight with, but the mission of the game is to kill these seemingly defenseless people.
Yeah.
And so, you can extrapolate some meaning there about civilians getting caught in between the crosshairs of stronger people. And especially with the imagery of Nagasaki and Hiroshima in the beginning, it's I can see how they're setting up that comparison. And so I'm kind of getting that. But again, you have to interpret it. That none of that is in the kind of specific text. This is only showing you are being told almost nothing in this game.
Do you think that's kind of the point?
Yes.
What meaning do you put into this on your own?
For sure. Right. Yeah. And so for those reasons, I think it is a very cool game. I enjoyed playing through it. It is very heady, though. It is asking you to do a lot of the work of storytelling, which is cool. I like that, but I could totally see how that would maybe not be the thing that a lot of people would love about this game. And I've seen reviews on Steam and stuff, and people are like, "I don't fucking get it." I'm like, yeah, that's kind of that is sort of the point, right? With surrealist art and stuff like that. A lot of the point is that it's not asking you to get it. It's asking you to reflect on how you felt about this thing.
Yeah.
And so, your anger at the postmodern art not quote unquote meaning anything, that is the point. That is the thing that you're supposed to be feeling. And so why? That is the thing it is trying to get you to do. Why do I feel this way?
Yeah.
Why do I feel like there needs to be meaning in images, or something that it has to have a deeper meaning? And so it's possible that I am reading too much into it or not, right? It's mostly, I think it is mostly just a tone and mood piece that is asking you to kind of sit with it. But yeah, I think I like all of that. Mm-hmm. It's a cool idea, and one that I think games are sometimes really reticent to do, is to really engage with just full blown surrealist wild nonsense, right?
Yeah.
Which is, I think, why I like things like Alan Wake 2 and Metal Gear Solid and all that sort of stuff, because it is just so weird and wacky and seems to be able to ride that line between there are things going on that you can understand, and then there's also just batshit wild stuff happening in the background as well, or in the foreground sometimes, that is fun and playful and sometimes doesn't want you to know oh, this is what that meant completely. Mm-hmm. And so I am happy to see games like this come out. I think that there's a lot of things I could point to say, I feel like this could have been done a little bit better, or, if there is so much room for interpretability, that there are spots where it could have been changed a little bit. But I do think that the home of surrealism for games almost necessitates them being indie games like this.
Sure.
Because it is so hard to do that with a big budget,
Yeah.
That it is much, I wouldn't say easier, but more feasible to do wild surrealist art pieces a smaller budget, right? Because I think your audience for it is necessarily going to be smaller, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
There's a lot of people who look at the fucking Duchamp's fountain and are like, that's fucking stupid. Why would you do that? And maybe it is stupid. Feel it, man. Think about it. Experience this thing.
Yeah, isn't it dumb? What do you think?
Yeah, why? What in you thinks that it's dumb? What adherence to regular images and thought makes you feel that way? And are you okay with that, right?
Yeah.
So I think it is just harder to do big budget stuff like that, because it is hard to get buy-in. I think that just the market for things that don't have a specific meaning or a specific ending, it's small, right? People's minds were blown at the end of The Last of Us 2 or the end of The Last of Us 1 when Joel seemingly lied to Ellie, and Ellie maybe knew that he lied, right?
Yep.
That there was some interpretability there, and the whole gaming industry was like, dude, this is fucking art. And let me say, that is art. That is also cool. And I also liked that a lot, but it in a otherwise very straightforward and interpretable game that has meaning very front and center, in a way that I like, it is hard to get people to be like, yeah, but this one is so out there and wild, and you got to be down for that too. And so I think, at least personally, I always get worried that are we just not going to have weird, wacky, surrealist shit in games other than the one game that Hideo Kojima makes every 8 years or something like that? And I was happy about Alan Wake 2 for that reason. And I'm also happy about this game because it seems like it's engaging with that in a similar way. Even if everything doesn't hit the mark or there are parts of it that I think could be improved or anything like that. Like, I think it's a cool video game and one that I was like happy to experience. Even if I was like, what the fuck just happened after I got done playing it.
So what you're saying is game developers, let your freak flag fly.
Let it fly, man. I want to see all the weird shit you're doing.
Make some weird stuff. We like it.
The fucked up thing is that like there is a market for this because so many people like Kingdom Hearts, right? Kingdom Hearts is an uninterpretable, wild bananas tone piece. Like there's, I think, like we've said in our episode about the first one, and like we will say, I'm sure, in other episodes about the other games, like the thing that draws me to that game is when I feel about it rather than when I know every member of Organization 13. And I think
know how I feel about them all.
I do, yes. If you show me their face, I can tell you which one is the most kissable, which is a thing we have done.
It's a thing we've done on this
in the
podcast.
past. But yeah, it is also a very tone and mood heavy game, and people seem to like that. So make more Kingdom Hearts is the end of this segment.
Is that what it came back to?
Yeah.
I want more Kingdom Hearts. They're doing it. They're literally doing it as we speak.
They are. I'm so interested if they can capture it again. And I'm especially interested to get to Kingdom Hearts 3 when we eventually do that.
3 is an interesting one, man. I'm curious to see your take on it.
Yeah, because you would beat it. And if I remember correctly, your experience was there is a great game buried in an okay game.
Yes. Yeah. It's different than Horizon in that Horizon is a great game and an okay game kind of mixed together.
Yeah.
Whereas Kingdom Hearts 3 was a very good game that just was buried way underneath kind of a not so good game.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm interested to see what they do with 4 because I wonder if they still have that, if they've still captured like the kind of listless, weird shit that happens in that series. Because it felt like, at least in the stuff that I've played of 3, that wasn't always there, right?
Yeah.
When I think about the strength of that series, and especially the strength of 2, like, God, they just fucking nailed it with that part.
Yeah.
The like 2 or 3 hours that you spend playing as Roxas. Just chef's kiss. You could bottle that and put it into a mason jar, and I would drink it and be like, oh my God, you have captured what it feels like to be at the last week of summer.
Twilight Town in a jar.
Oh my God, please. It was so good. And I don't really remember them feeling that so much in Kingdom Hearts 3. I feel like they got really invested in Organization 13 and explaining like, but what's going on with Aqua? And like, listen, I love Aqua. She's cool, but make me feel, you know?
They spend too much time make me watch Let It Go. Sora, Donald, and Goofy interposed in every now and then. That's really what got me.
Yeah, that's fair.
Disney executive was like, we need more Disney.
Guys, Frozen is not getting enough views. Not enough people know about Frozen. Please put Goofy in it so we can get more views
it's
for
like,
Frozen.
Of all the movies that they're doing in this game, why does Frozen need to have the big marketing piece in it?
Yeah, you got any stinkers you can pull out of the back catalog that like maybe deserve a second chance?
Yeah, give me your weirdest movie, Disney. Put it in there.
Oh, God. Anyway, that game is No Sun to Worship if you want to check it out. Cool. I think it's very good. The other game that I probably have considerably less to say about and is just a complete tonal shift is that I've been playing through the great Ace Attorney Chronicles.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah. This is the Ace Attorney game that came out in like 2021, I think. And it is not the collection of the first 3 games. It is this other kind of alternate history version where you are playing as like, I think a predecessor to like Phoenix Wright.
Aren't you in like feudal Japan or something?
Yeah, it's like Japan, like right after they like kind of opened their borders a little bit and became a little bit less isolationist. It's that era. And I feel like I had talked about this a little bit right when it came out. And I had played not very much of it because I popped it open the other day and I was like, God, I'm still like on the first trial in this game, which is not far into it at all. But I'm just in need of a bedtime game right now.
Sure.
Oh my God. Ace Attorney is a very good bedtime game. I feel like Octopath Traveler 2 kind of rewired my brain to be okay with auto-advancing dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
And this game also has auto-advancing dialogue. And you can set the delay between when it will advance to the next thing. And I set it to very like low. And I'm like, oh, this is great. This is like if I was pressing it, but I can just hold the game and look at it and read.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of looking like I'm just reading before bed, which is phenomenal for me. But I'm also getting a video game in there too.
Beautiful.
Don't let me go to bed before I've had my gaming, Dad.
I need my gaming and my Ovaltine.
Reading a book? That's way out, dude. That's 2000
okay,
late.
Boomer.
Okay, Boomer. I want to read a video game. So, yeah, this, for anybody who hasn't maybe played an Ace Attorney game, historically, this is a series that it's definitely a visual novel. I think that is the closest genre you will find to what is going on here.
Yeah.
It was one of the first visual novels that I was like, hey, I like this. This is cool. Because I do think it asks a little bit more of you than a lot of other visual novels do. It essentially, the way the game works is typically you will be involved or witness or hear of some crime that happens somewhere, and you as Phoenix Wright in the first few, Apollo Justice in the other one, or Ryunosuke is the main character here, you will be tasked with defending typically someone from a crime that it seems like maybe they did or did not commit. And typically the Ace Attorney games are split up into like an investigation phase where you go around and just like collect evidence and inspect stuff. And it's kind of, you're just like wandering around these spaces and talking to people. And then a courtroom phase where you go in and you will receive like testimony from people. And you typically
cross-examine people.
Yeah, you cross-examine people. And a lot of the game is just picking out inconsistencies between the testimony that people have said. So you have to be like, this person said something just now that isn't true, and here is the like specific evidence that contradicts what they said, right? It is honestly a lot less about knowing the specific truth of what happened and more an exercise in just like picking out what is wrong with a thing that was just said. Because a lot of the time in these games, the game is hiding from you what exactly happened behind all of these weird, bizarre testimonies. And so a lot of, like I said, a lot of the game is just you picking out little bits of text and being like, oh, hey, I know why this isn't right. This one, The Greatest Attorney Chronicles, it switches this up a little bit in that there are some parts of it that are this like courtroom kind of drama game. And there are other parts where it is a lot less formalized. You're not necessarily in a courtroom. The like second chapter, a very explicit example of that, where like you're kind of just wandering around and figuring things out. And the most mechanical heavy parts of the game are where you're interacting with Sherlock Sholmes, one of the best video game characters of all time.
Sherlock Sholmes?
Yes.
That's great.
I think they didn't get the rights to Sherlock, and so they named him Sherlock, who is an amazing character. The mechanical parts of that part of the game is that Sherlock essentially will make some deductions about something that's happened, and they're very clearly off a little bit. Like he's very close to the truth, but not quite. He's like 90% of the way there.
Yeah.
And your job is to pick out like, what are the few things that are not right here, and then correct them. And it's done in this like very hilarious, like theatrical way where there is like a spotlight being like moved around on the different characters, and both you and Sherlock are like snapping to move it and move it to other people and stuff like that. It's all very fun, cartoonish in a lot of ways. And so like that is a departure, I think, from the regular games, but like, ooh, love it. Absolutely amazing. I'm loving this game. It is a perfect before bedtime game because the stakes are high, but nobody's really taking them that seriously a lot of the time. Like your main compatriots in the second chapter are always like, essentially you are the suspect in the beginning of like killing the person who gets murdered in the second chapter. And like a lot of people are like, yeah, but you're the murderer, right? Like you killed him. And you're like, no, I didn't. And then they're like, yeah, but like this little piece of evidence kind of looks like you did, but we should go like investigate and check it out and then talk through it and stuff like that. It's all just very tongue in cheek and hilarious. I think in talking with you on this pod for a while, I've come to realize like how hard it is to do humor in a video game.
Oh yeah.
And I think that these ones do it so well where they're able to like do these like flash cuts to characters in different positions or making different like emotions with their face or cut someone off very quickly when they're saying something, or they make these like punch sounds. whenever something like really ridiculous happens, which goes a long way to make it really funny. I think it is, again, an exercise in like timing and tone.
Timing is important.
Yes, yeah. And they just nail it in this game and the other Ace Attorney games. So like, I'm not surprised that they've got it again here, but like, man, it's really, really, really great. It's also like, I think I had mentioned this the first time I talked about it, but bears repeating that like it is so faithful to the original kind of animation style that the 2D games on the DS had. Where like the characters look like if they're not moving, they look like, yeah, that looks like the characters that I remember and recognize, or at least like the style of it from those games. Yeah. But they've sort of like animated everything in between those states. And so it looks so smooth and well done in a way that I was not expecting it to, in a way that is also like very faithful to the art style of those original ones, despite the fact like I would have a hard time describing to you really what that art style is other than kind of like, I don't know, anime, I guess. But it really has like a style and a way that it shows its characters. And so it's cool to see them maintaining that. I think one of the stranger things that I was not expecting this game to have is that it is talking a lot about race relations, and specifically surrounding Japanese people, like kind of coming out of this isolationist period. Sure. And that's not like what the game is, it's not the whole thing, but it is there in a way that I kind of wasn't expecting it to be. And it is not done for like cheap humor a lot of the time. It seems like they are trying to depict like that the world was kind of reticent about like this new people that are kind of like out in the world now, Of course that was, Japanese people have always been around. And so it's not like they, totally were some isolated group of people, but like in a major significant way, in the way that happened in actual history, right? Where like the borders are a little bit more open and folks are like traveling around and going to new places. I don't know really what they're saying about it yet, but it is interesting that it's there in a way that like in the regular Ace Attorney games is just simply not present, right? Like really none of that is there. And I don't think that that's like a bad thing. The game doesn't have to tackle any of that. And like, it's a pretty happy-go-lucky game, the base one. So like, why would you, you know? But it is interesting. I'm interested to see kind of like what they do with that story, if anything. But it does feel like I'm interested in the way that this will resolve, or what they will say about all of this.
What's the point they're trying to make there?
Yeah. Why are you invoking this? Because it doesn't feel like it's mishandled a lot of the time. And especially again, like this is a Japanese game development company. So it's like there's firsthand experience here, right? Like these people aren't like some American company being like, I bet I know what it was like when Japan opened its borders. Like, no, like it's a group of people who are Japanese doing this. So it's like, okay, like what story is here? What is the story to tell? And I'm interested in that. I want to read what it says. And like I said, I'm not sure yet. I don't know what it is. I hope it's something good, and I hope it's not just in there for fluff. I don't think it will be, but could be, I guess. I haven't beaten it. But super fun game. I'm really, really loving it. Just a perfect January game, man. I'm all about it. I've got time.
Cozy game
now. Cozy game. I can just put an hour into this a day and be like, yeah, that's great.
Nice.
That's fun for me.
Love it. Games are fun. I love those Ace Attorney games. I'm still playing. I'm still playing the original 3 off and on. It's just good to get in there.
Yeah, there's so much game in there.
There is.
It takes a really long time, especially if you're not just like mainlining these games. And I think that's kind of not the best way to do this unless you're like a really avid and focused person, like an avid reader. Like at least for me personally, I would have a hard time paying attention to this game for like 5 hours in a row. Yeah. I feel like I would start to kind of lose the details a little bit. Yeah. And when it comes time to like be in the courtroom and be like, I have no idea, man. They're fun games. There's also a collection of Apollo Justice games that are coming out pretty soon, which I'm interested to check out.
I just saw that there's an anime for Ace Attorney as well. Did you know that?
Ooh, no, I did not.
It's on Crunchyroll, apparently.
Thank you, Crunchyroll. Thank you. Doing the Lord's work.
Crunchy bless.
It might be bad. I don't know.
It could be. Very possible.
That'll all bring me to my Podtimistic thing of the week, David.
Which is?
NPCs talking to themselves for no good reason.
Oh, yeah. Just muttering to themselves in the corner.
Just saying the mechanics of the game out loud is very funny to me whenever that happens.
Press the start button to pull up your menu.
My favorite ones as of late are, I'm still playing Skyrim. That's just still a thing that's happening. I love all the must have been the wind whenever like a person dies next to someone else and they're like, I don't know. I'm done investigating. I'm over it.
Oh, it's always so good. Here's a dead body.
I don't know, dude. The same thing happens in No Sun to Worship where they're like, talking and somebody would be like, oh, what's that? Or I've got an enemy down or something like that. Start investigating.
Yeah.
Like they're just yelling at you what's about to happen. Obviously Metal Gear Solid does that too. Whenever you knock on a door or a wall or something, what's that? And someone will come walking around. It's just very funny. There's like a weirdly a resurgence of Oblivion clips going around the internet right now.
Or maybe the algorithm just knows you're playing Oblivion and wants to watch it. Or I know you're playing Skyrim, so...
I'm playing Skyrim, but I'm always kind of playing Oblivion in my heart. It's always present. Must have been the wind.
You do that too well.
It's such a bizarre accent, the Skyrim accent, the like Nord accent that they do. And it's all, again, it's like any other Bethesda game. There's like 2 guys who do it. And so you can kind of do most of their voices.
It feels like they got 2 guys from the cafeteria, but like, can you do a Nord accent?
And like 10,000 lines of dialogue,
exactly.
please.
So good.
Do you have something fueling your sense of optimism this week, David?
I do.
What is it?
Flying.
This is the thing where you fly up in the sky.
Yes, this is the thing. This is the thing where you were in the sky with wings. In Forbidden West, Horizon Forbidden West, one of the other great things you could do at the end of the game is that you can hijack and ride robot dinos that fly. The Sunstrider in particular. Ooh, so good.
Very good. Yeah.
Good. Also, I wanted to do that way earlier in the game.
Yeah, I feel like that was in some of the marketing if you looked close enough. And I like, even when I was playing, I was like, come on, dude, when are we going to get to flying?
It's pretty much the end of the game.
Yeah.
Maybe I could have gotten it earlier. I didn't look. I was too confused by all the mechanics.
Yeah.
But the first time that they make you do it is there at the end of the game. But it's quite nice. And then I just explored the whole map. After that, I took like an hour just like flying around.
That's great.
It is a beautiful map. It really is something special. Yeah. So yeah, flying. Love flying in a game, any game.
It's very good. We just talked about how like neat it was to fly in Diddy Kong Racing.
Yeah. It is still fun.
Whoa. Yes.
All these years later.
It is very cool. I was also thinking about like when I was editing that episode, how amazing it was the first time you figured out how to fly in like a Grand Theft Auto game, specifically GTA 3, where there was like one plane.
Yep.
That was really hard to get to.
Yep. You're like, I can fly.
I can do this? Oh my God. Because like traversal takes a while in that game. And so it's really like wild. If I remember correctly, it also is quite hard to fly in that one. Specifically GTA 3. Like the plane, I think is called a dodo because it's like not really meant to fly very well.
Yeah.
And so you have to kind of like go up as much as you can and then hover and kind of drift for a while.
It really felt like you were someone hijacking a plane who had no business flying a plane.
Yeah, the game was maybe saying to you like, why are you doing this? You shouldn't be doing this.
Yeah, this is a bad idea.
It was very fun, very good. I agree. Flying. Cool.
Always cool. Always good.
I keep meaning to play Gravity Rush.
I've heard that game is good. I have no idea what it is, but I've only heard good
kind
things.
of flying in it.
Gravity flying?
Bit. Gravity flying.
Gravity rushing?
There's a lot of people whose games opinions I trust a lot, who I'm like 90% of their games that they think are great are the same ones that I think are great. And almost all of them are like, yeah, Gravity Rush fucks. I'm like, oh man, I think I gotta play that.
Let's do it.
Anyway, David, do you want to move on to our main thing?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Welcome to Good Games. It's a segment where we talk about the okayest games of yesteryear and gush all the things that we love about them.
And discuss cottage cheese.
God, dude, it's so tough. I don't like to look at it. David and I were just talking about cottage cheese. That's the context there. Got a listener suggested game. This one comes from Brady. Thank you, Brady.
Thanks, Brady.
He'd suggested that we play Yu-Gi-Oh! And the Falsebound Kingdom, a game that I had never heard of.
Same. Never heard about this game once.
Yeah.
I think I probably saw there was another Yu-Gi-Oh game and I was like, okay.
File it away in the rest of my brain.
Exactly.
With the rest of the Yu-Gi-Oh games. Let's level set real quick.
Yeah.
I'm not a Yu-Gi-Oh guy.
Did you ever watch the show?
No, literally never. I had no idea what the show was about, David.
I watched the show. The show was, I think I watched the first season or something.
I remember you having like sort of a passing enjoyment of it, but it wasn't like, you didn't like have the battle gear or anything like that or the cards or anything.
Don't go that far. Let's not get ahead of ourselves now.
Unearthing some David lore. I like this.
Definitely had some cards.
Yeah.
Very clearly remember that one year for Christmas in high school, Jahan got me one of the Yu-Gi-Oh like forearm deck battling kits or whatever they are. I don't even know what you call them.
Yeah.
The hollow decks or something like that.
Something like that.
It was pretty cool actually. You could actually put it on your arm and you press a button and it would like swing out in front of you where you could put your cards.
Yeah. Maybe I do remember this because I feel like I remember that being weaponized almost immediately.
Oh, absolutely. It was never used for Yu-Gi-Oh! It was used for tomfoolery.
Punching and stuff. Yeah, I know genuinely nothing other than like there are cards in this game and that Blue Eyes White Dragon is a thing.
Blue Eyes White Dragon. Yeah, you got it. I didn't know you knew so little about Yu-Gi-Oh!
I don't know why. Like,
you were just off being a real Chad at the time. You were too cool for Yu-Gi-Oh!
So. I was not somebody who would turn their nose up at nerdy shit. So it is very. This is not. I was watching like Digimon and Dragon Ball Z. I don't know what historical revisionism we're working on right here.
Chase is very insulted.
When was Yu-Gi-Oh! Airing in the United States?
Ooh, I want to say it got big when we were maybe in middle school, late middle school, really? Early high school.
American air date is September 29th, 2001.
Whoa. So no, elementary school.
Yeah, elementary. That I feel like that's what it felt like to me.
That makes more
sense. If I remember
sense.
Correctly. So like 5th or 6th grade.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe this is my tic-tac era. So if we're going to call that a Chad era, I guess we can.
This was when Chase got his first girlfriend era.
That is also true. Spent a lot of time on the phone.
Sure did.
Chatting.
You were a big phone boy.
I love to be on the phone. I don't know what that was about because I was like an extremely introverted kid. And so like
on the phone, you could be anyone on the phone.
I can even be a new person on the phone. So I'm going to be Solid Snake.
I could be anyone. I'm going to be Solid Snake.
I'm going to be David Hayter. But I for whatever reason just didn't catch it. I think honestly that was peak Dragon Ball Z time for me, and so like I think I was just so focused on DBZ.
Yeah.
I had no other room for more anime.
That's real.
So my context coming into this game is I know nothing, and so if there are things that are like, hey, that's different than the show, I'm not gonna crack that one.
Sure,
I don't know.
Sure.
But hey, why don't I hit you with some hot stats so we can talk about this video game.
Let's hear it.
Cool.
Hot stats.
Yu-Gi-Oh! And the Falsebound Kingdom came out in North America November 4th of 2003 for GameCube. It was, I think, the year prior in Japan and then the year after in Europe. So kind of a delayed release schedule there.
Gotcha.
This was made by Konami, who makes
pachinko machines.
Video games. A lot of video games. They make pachinko machines now. But back in the day, you'll know them from Frogger or Contra or Tokimeki Memorial or Castlevania or Metal Gear. They make video games.
Quite a
lot of video games. Yes. I tried to look up like who worked on these games specifically because Konami's like such a big company that I was trying to be like, what else have y'all worked on? A lot of them just worked on other Yu-Gi-Oh games. So
nice. It's the Yugi crew.
Yeah, the Yugi crew. I do have a review from our friends over at Joe Video of Yu-Gi-Oh! And the Falsebound Kingdom, which was originally in French. Google translated it from one language into another through a bunch of them. I did a bunch of languages.
A bunch of languages.
When I forget the script of what I'm saying, it totally derails me, and I'm just like, I don't know, I did it a lot.
You're like so professional, NPR-esque, and nothing. I did a bunch.
I put them through a bunchy.
I did the bunchy scrunchy, and then it came out.
And they came out all good and crunchy.
The bunchy scrunchy to make it crunchy. Got it.
I mangled the review through Google Translate, which I'll read for you now. This is Yu-Gi-Oh! Part 1 for the GameCube. This game not only has slow card combat to begin with, but it's a rival RPG. That's to give a 0. I wouldn't pay anything for it. This starts off weak, the combat not good, and the graphics desired. Konami, you are a true Yu-Gi-Oh! Published by GameCube. And that they gave that one a 3 out of 10. They did not like this video game.
Why did it sound like that review was written by Tim Robinson?
Yeah, there was a little bit of that in there, huh? I wouldn't pay anything for it.
Yes, exactly. It's just the tonal shifts were very abrupt.
Yeah, especially published by GameCube. Like, why is this in here?
Gotta know who the publisher is.
Also, it's not published by GameCube.
I mean, it's an easy mistake to make.
Yeah, fair enough.
Published for the GameCube?
Maybe. Who knows?
Maybe. Who knows?
David, could you tell me what this game is?
Yes. This game, what's the name of the game again?
Yu-Gi-Oh! And the Falsebound Kingdom.
Okay. Yu-Gi-Oh! And the Falsebound Kingdom is a tactics-style Yu-Gi-Oh! Game. So you are Yugi and the Yugi crew, Joey, Taya, and the other guy, and you are invited to a video game company that is creating like a virtual reality version of Duel Monsters, the game that has taken the world by storm and is what the trading card game that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is based off of with all the monsters on it, right?
Sure, I don't know.
Something goes weird and wacky and wild when you try to use the new virtual reality gear and you get sucked into the world that this game company has created that is essentially making all of the creatures from the card game into like real creatures in this world that they have made with this very kind of intense political drama around it, like Romance of the Three Kingdoms-esque sort of deal where you're essentially you are Yugi and you are like the leader of the resistance against this evil empire, and you have to use the duel monsters, which are now real monsters in this virtual world, to wage war against the empire. So the way that it works is that you go into an area and you have your little base of operations, and there's usually like a couple towns and then another enemy base that you have to take over. So you have different, what they call them, marshals, field marshals.
I think so, yeah.
That have the power to control monsters in this world. And then you can make teams of 3 that are controlled by any one marshal. So Yugi is a marshal. So he has a team of 3 monsters. And then there is one monster on that team that is your captain for the team. Right?
Yeah.
They're in the middle and they could determine special things about the team. But really what happens is you select a team and you send them to other places on the map to attack and take control of. And then you go into like a Pokemon-esque turn-based 3D battling, turn-based battling system where you get to trade attacks between your group of monsters and the enemy group of monsters.
It's as if Pokemon had a 3v3 version of a fight.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, it's like Pokemon and Final Fantasy kind of mixed together, except less options of things to do.
Yeah, you really only have like attack or use an item or do like a special move.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so funny in the beginning of the game where the first marshal that's talking to Yugi is like, dude, you are so much stronger than us. Like, we really need to reiterate how much we fucking suck.
Yeah, you are the greatest of us all.
We are not going to be useful.
And you don't remember that you're the greatest, so that's bad for us.
Yes. But yeah, it's essentially you will go into that battle mode and then each of your characters has a set amount of times that they can take an action. Yeah. And so eventually, like if you run out of those, the battle will like stop.
Did they explain that or did that just happen?
No,
I was very confused. Not. I was like, okay, the stars are gone, so now this turn is over.
There is a lot in this game that they simply don't tell you.
Yeah. You just got to figure it out.
Yeah. And like, that's tough initially. Because it really does. It seems like they're saying a lot. Like I was trying to like get through the tutorial of like, what is my marshal telling me to do? And it's a lot of like meta discussions of like, you have to take the town.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. But like, they don't really tell you necessarily how to do that.
Exactly. Sounds great, but how?
Yes. I have to imagine that this is one of the games that has a extensive manual that it came with that I was just simply missing.
In the GameCube case.
Yes. I could be wrong. I don't know. But regardless, the game explains very little to you. But I think once you get it, it does make a little bit more sense. With these games, my tactic is usually just like, all right, I'm just going to get in there and fuck it up. And like...
Yeah.
See what I can do.
I will learn by doing.
Yes, I think the game will show me when it's like telling me not to do something.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Which is what happened. I think the only other thing that comes to mind is just that like that's the campaign is just you're taking over different parts of the map.
Yeah. Yeah, you're taking over different parts of the map. You start off on an island to the north of the main continent, and then you're just slowly amassing territory.
We were talking before this, and you had said that this one was a little bit less of an enjoyable experience for you.
Yeah, I was very intrigued to see that it was this type of game, and I was excited about the type of game it was because I have good experience with these types of games in the past, but I thought this one was just kind of slow for me.
It was definitely slow. That is a thing that I will like totally fully agree with you on that one.
Yeah, it was slow. I found myself confused very often because it doesn't tell you like some crucial things here and there.
Yeah.
You just gotta have to learn it, which is fine. But I think the thing that really gets me is that I'm telling my teams to attack an area and I'm like, okay, I don't know. Nothing happened. Nothing I can see happen. And then I look at the screen, there's like a little ant walking across the field. And I'm like, oh, that's my team. And they're just walking very slowly to this area, which I think does add a little bit of, I think, character to the game. And they're like, oh, this is a vast distance that I am traversing here. It's going to take a second. But I don't think it adds anything to the gameplay, or at least not the part that I played. So like maybe in other areas, if it's a more complex battle going on, like you can maybe have to like stagger how you send out units, which I could see actually being kind of interesting. Like, okay, send 3 units here first, then like 4 that way, and then another couple this way to do that. And I could see how there would be some interesting decisions in regards to that style of gameplay, like when it's more, if it ever gets more fleshed out. Then the tutorial level is just like, okay, I'm waiting. And
it does take a while. Yeah, totally.
But I did like that they actually visualized the sprite on the map and that you could zoom in and like see it walking around. I always love seeing the creatures doing things besides fighting.
Me too. Yeah. I liked this game a lot. This game was really good.
Yeah, you're saying you loved this game.
That is really cool. I think partially because I haven't played a game like this before. Outside of like really intense military simulators, you know?
Sure.
Like I liked the Total War Shogun games. And like Total War is a very old series. Like there have been a lot of them. And Shogun was the first one that I played that I was like, okay, I'm in. This is really fun. But that game is really intense about like, you do kind of have to know like what tactics you're going to use on the battlefield, right? Whereas this one simplifies that part of the game. It's kind of just a JRPG battle. I've done that before. I know what I'm doing here. And so like, I liked that approach. And I agree with you that the first level of that tutorial is a little bit slow and like, I mean, literally slow. It takes a while. I was playing on an emulator that I could speed it up a lot, which I think really helped.
There you go.
But I think that the game got a lot more interesting once you are having to make decisions about like trying to anticipate where enemies are going to attack and like what strongholds they might attack. Because having to like split your units out to go to different places and like either hold certain forts or realize that like I don't have the strength to repel these people, and then like taking one of your forces and moving it back to a like previous fort that you have control over. Like that stuff is fun in this game and in like the Total War games. Like it's still hitting on the same kind of experience there. I think you're right to compare it to the like Romance of the Three Kingdoms. It was also done in this game called Ogre Battle 64, which is in our suggestion box right now. You may be seeing more of that pretty soon. But which like have you played any of those ogre tactics games?
I have not.
Do you know what I'm talking about? They were like kind of popular, but there are 2 entries in those series. One of them I think was for the SNES and this one's for the N64. And it's like largely a very similar game where you are looking at like a big map and whenever you fight, it goes into like a 3-on-3 fighting game.
Sure.
The other ones are like very much Final Fantasy Tactics style games. Yeah. Which is, there was like a remake that came out of, I think it's Ogre Tactics Let Us Cling Together was the remake. It was like Ogre Tactics Reborn or something that came out for the Switch. But yeah, it was very similar to the Ogre Battle 64, which I was surprised to see. So anyway, point being like, I really like the approach here. I think it's novel and interesting. I like those 4X games, as they call them, the like explore, expand, exploit, exterminate, very intense kind of games. But
explore, exploit, expand, exterminate?
Yes.
Explore, expand, exploit, exterminate.
Exploit is kind of a bummer, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know if I want it to be like part of the game.
No.
You know?
I'm assuming they're saying like exploit the resources of a place, but like there's usually no good exploitation.
Yeah. This doesn't have a good denotation.
No, absolutely not. But typically those kinds of games, or at least in my experience, they're hugely complicated video games. Like really, really dense mechanical experiences that like once you get it, it's really cool, right?
Yeah.
I think about something like Stellaris, which is like, I've heard the people who really like Stellaris are nuts about it, but there are also like multiple hour-long tutorials on YouTube about how to play the game, right? I think even something like Civilization is like the more toned down version of these kind of games. And even that is still very complicated.
Absolutely.
As far as gameplay goes, like you need to read up and be like, I don't really know what this is, or have Leonard Nimoy explain it to you in Civ 5, 4. I don't know which one that was.
Right.
But regardless, I really appreciate that they're trying to like simplify it here.
I see that.
Because I don't think the complexity of those games is necessarily the thing that makes them good. It is something that I think you can enjoy if you like complex games, but I think the tactics part of it is really fun. Again, when I was like deciding what units to send where and like having to balance like, okay, well, these guys have more experience, but I gave this group like a healing potion, so they may be able to like hold out a little longer. That stuff is good. I like that. Even if like when you actually go to battle, it's just pressing A to attack somebody.
Yeah.
I think that that's all really good and like reminds me of what something like Dragon Quest Builders does for Minecraft. Minecraft is already a pretty like straightforward game, and so it's not exactly one-to-one here, but just taking something that can be a little bit more complicated and making it approachable.
Yeah.
Maybe a better example is just the base Dragon Quest games that are trying to be like, here is a very simplified version of like, what are the most necessary parts of a JRPG? And how do we make that something that people who have never played a video game before can play? And like, I would not say that if you've never played a video game before that you'd be able to intuit what to do in the Falsebound Kingdom.
Yeah.
But it is closer than, Stellaris or
than just
Total War Warhammer or something,
Yeah. I see that.
And so I think that that's really cool. I wish that there were a lot more of these games because like I don't always have time to sink in 5 hours into, Masters of Orion or something like that to be like, how do I play this game and how do I play it well?
Yeah.
And not just blow 5 hours because I didn't really know what to do.
Yeah.
I would like a better entry point where it is a little bit simpler to play. And this game, and it seems like the Ogre games do that as well.
Sure. I mean, I do like the conceit of the game where, really the planning is where the game, the meat of the game is. It's not really the actual battles, right? It's setting yourself up for success. And I do appreciate that in the gameplay mechanics of it all. And it could be, if they made a more modern take on this game, I'd be interested to see what that would look like and how that would play. If they, maybe I go back and try this and do the same thing. I would just emulate the speed a little bit higher.
It genuinely helps a lot.
I believe that because just waiting for the enemy to attack me. I'm just like, all right, I'm just waiting.
Yeah, come on.
We're waiting. You had to cross some mountains. I was like, oh man.
Yeah.
So I think that would probably solve my big gripe with the game.
And like, that's not to say, it's something that has to be solved. I think just like my own taste is something that this game agreed with.
Yeah.
I think I also do like the simplified version of a complex game. I like those games a lot, especially when it's like intentionally done and done well. Brady said kind of similar stuff when I'd asked his feelings about this game. He had said, in retrospect, Yu-Gi-Oh! TFK was one of my first introductions to the strategy and JRPG genre. It shares the basis of a lot of elements that had gone to love in Fire Emblem, such as tactical unit movement, base management, stat management, and attack effectiveness. This, of course, flew over my head entirely as a little kid, where I used a Game Shark to get all the monsters and just blast through the game.
Ooh, nice.
Valid, man. But when I was older and played the game the normal way with a game facts guide, because in JRPG style, a lot of the unlockables are obtuse, I ended up finding a surprisingly decent amount of depth. Objectively, it's a little slow and bare by today's standards, and even was a bit back then, TBH. But as an OG Yu-Gi-Oh! Anime fan, this game absolutely slaps. I honestly think it is an underrated gem in the strategy JRPG genre.
Nice.
Which I agree with. I really had not heard of this very, very much.
No.
And again, didn't even really know that this kind of game existed. I thought it was like Total War or nothing, man.
No middle ground.
No. It's also like it reviewed really badly.
Yeah, it's the Joe Video hated it.
Oh my God, Joe Video hated it. And like, I think a lot of the outlets that I was seeing on Wiki were not big fans. GameSpy gave it a 2 out of 5. GameSpot gave it a 3.1 out of 10. Game Informer gave it a 6.5. IGN 3.5 out of 10.
3.5. Man,
it's brutal. I think that's pretty low, to be honest. Like, I understand maybe like we're in 2003 at this point, and so like, Mario Sunshine has come out by now. And it's like, look at how good games can look. And this one, I would not say looks as good as that.
No, I was a little shocked that it was a GameCube game. I'm like, huh?
I do wonder if this was maybe planned as like an N64 game or something like that.
The graphic style is much more N64-esque.
Yeah, it's pretty basic. But like, again, when I reach back to play games like this in this era, that stuff just doesn't bother me very much.
Like, yeah, true.
And I think it's very I think why games demand sometimes to be reevaluated and like re-looked at, and why the reviews that happen in the moment are not necessarily like indicative of a game's quality, because, you know, when we're in 2024, the difference between graphics of 2000 and 2003 are like, yeah, I can see the difference, but it's not that important to me, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas at the time, it was like, if something didn't look cutting edge, it was like, what are we doing, dude? This shit sucks.
Just going back now? Going backward?
So, yeah.
Nice.
It's cool. You watched Yu-Gi-Oh! Did any of this feel like it was cool?
I did watch Yu-Gi-Oh! I did like to see some of the cards, or the creatures from the cards that I liked growing up. Yeah. Like Celtic Guardian. I liked Celtic Guardian. I thought it was a cool card. Cool design. I was like, oh yeah, got Celtic Guardian already. This is good. And then the dragon you get at the end of the tutorial. I think that was another card that I enjoyed as a child. And I do have some affinity for just the characters of Yu-Gi-Oh! So it was fun to see them all again. Hear their funny little voices in my head when I was reading their text bubbles. Right. Which is great. I wouldn't say I was a big Yu-Gi-Oh! Head as far as like the anime goes. Honestly, I got like a 10 or 2 of the cards, and I just thought the cards looked neat. They had cool designs.
They had a very distinctive design flavor to them.
They do. Very much so. Remember, I had like 3 of the pieces of Exodia, and I'm like, I'm going to get all the Exodias.
There's like this bizarre mix of like kind of old English folklore and also Egyptian gods and shit like that.
Well, it's all based on Egyptian gods.
Yeah, but like there's stuff like the Celtic.
Yeah.
That kind of like bizarre influence where there's like I said, this old English influence, but then like Anubis is a big deal in the game.
Yeah, there's like a strange amount of European like fantasy folklore with the Egyptian stuff, and not much in between.
Yeah, it's very strange. It's like, either an Egyptian god or like a skull or something.
Yeah, a spooky skeleton with a sword.
I kind of like that. I was reading about Yu-Gi-Oh! Yesterday, and I think that there was like, initially it was pitched as like a horror show.
Oh.
I think you see that influence in there because a lot of the monsters are like, that's a spooky guy. That's like,
they do have some fucked up looking monsters in there.
Yeah. Talk about like the difference from Pokemon to Pal World. Like this is nowhere near it, despite being a card battler game.
Yeah,
you know?
A card game with monsters.
Yeah.
Very different styles. Not the same at all.
I'm so shocked to see Tetsuya Nomura not on this video game because like, God, the outfits in this shit are just bananas. The like belt that Yugi wears around his neck all the time is so strange.
Yugi always had a weird style to him.
The hair too. Like
the hair.
I'm not going to sit here and cast stones out of my glass Dragon Ball Z house and say, whoa, the hair is weird in this anime. But like, man,
his hair just makes no sense. I always would just be looking at it and like, where is the depth? How many layers are there to this hair? Is it layered? Is it one layer? I don't know.
It kind of defies physics, you know, like the outer like red purple layer seems to be just like an outline of the hair, but there's depth to it. The little like golden parts seem to move outside of it.
Absolutely.
It defies physics. I don't know how it works. But yeah, very fun character designs in there. I really like all of them. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Extremely 2000s designs.
Absolutely. Yeah, I always love the character designs in those games.
Mm-hmm. Kaiba's like eyes always being like a little bit shadowed by his like hair that's just all over his face.
Did you play as Yugi or Kaiba?
I played as Yugi.
Mm-hmm. I was thinking, I was like, ooh, do I want to be Kaiba? Is that going to be a very different story?
I almost Yugi, texted you because I was like, which one are you doing? Mm-hmm. But yeah, from what I understand, they're like very different stories. But I think Kaiba also gets sucked into the Ready Player One Sword Art Online of it all.
Sure.
And I think has to fight in the war too. If I remember correctly, all of your friends are like opposing generals in this like fight.
Oh, they're enemies.
Yeah, I think so. If I remember correctly, that's what it is. Very strange, but fight your friends. Maybe it's fun.
Fight your friends, dominate them. It's good.
Yeah, with your cool enemies, with Exodia.
The Forbidden One.
That's a really cool name.
Oh, it's great.
That's really cool.
His tack is called Obliterate.
Oh, man.
He's great. You see him in the first episode of the anime.
Like,
Kaiba's got 3 blue eyes white dragons out, and you're like, Yugi's gonna die. Like, he's gonna murder Yugi with these holographic cards. And then Exodia comes out and just blasts him to hell. Great.
Very good. Yeah, shouts out Exodia. That's a sick name.
Exodia, the Forbidden One. Just anything the Forbidden One's so good.
Oh my God. Yeah, a critical inclusion in the name. It feels so much like a Dark Souls title.
Oh, absolutely.
It's like right there.
Ooh, I would play a Dark Souls style Yu-Gi-Oh game.
I mean, let the people over at Liza P know. They'll cook something up.
Yami Yugi with a little harpoon arm.
What a cool idea to make the cards different parts of a monster too. That's sick.
Yeah, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. Got to combine. You got to get them all in your hand. Then you win. Automatic win.
So it's like incredibly hard, but still cool as hell.
You got to believe in the heart of the cards, Chase.
That is what that comes from, right?
Yes.
The heart of the cards is from Yu-Gi-Oh.
Absolutely. He always talks about it. I must trust in the heart of the cards. Very Kingdom Hearts. Very Kingdom Hearts.
That is very Kingdom Hearts, isn't it? Again, Tetsu Nomura, where are you? I know he's just lurking in here somewhere.
I know that the heart of the cards is light.
It's pretty much the same thing. Maybe Yu-Gi-Oh is cool. I never thought it was bad, but like the shit's sick.
It's an interesting lore. You know that Yugi has the soul of a pharaoh inside of him from ancient Egypt, right?
Who is also named Yugi?
I don't know. I don't know if his name is also Yugi.
The naming is so confusing because like that really threw me when I like saw clips of this on the internet and like suddenly this child turns into like a big man who kind of looks similar,
but it just stands more confidently.
Yes, I was very confused by what was going on.
Yeah, that's the pharaoh.
That's the pharaoh,
who I think was responsible for like releasing the Egyptian gods or something.
Something like that. I was reading the Wikipedia.
He messed
and that does
up
sound
somehow.
familiar.
Yeah, and then got sealed inside the little pyramid that Yugi hangs around his neck.
Good for Yugi.
Good for Yugi. It's a big come up. Now I'm also a pharaoh. Wonder how much interest his fortunes amassed over the eons.
Probably a little bit. I don't know if they still take those coins that they got living down there, but
thankfully they all made of gold, so we good.
Yeah, true. It's actually dollars. They have dollars down there.
Dollars. Who's Benjamin Franklin? Never heard of him.
Cool. Hey, do you have anything else to say about this game? Yu-Gi-Oh! The Forbidden Kingdom? Is that the name of this video game?
The Falsebound Kingdom.
The Falsebound Kingdom. Like all day, I've been just like typing into Google the name of this thing, and every time I get to what is the rest of it?
I know. It's a hard name to remember for some reason.
Falsebound is kind of a strange word.
It is a strange word. Maybe it would make sense by the end of the game.
I mean, I get like it's not a real place, right?
No.
So I guess you could consider that falsebound
falsely to this virtual reality world. I don't know.
I guess. Anyway, 2 shouts out. 1, Brady, thank you for suggesting this. It's a fun game. I liked this a lot.
I enjoyed the Yu-Gi-Oh aspects of it.
Yeah. I enjoyed the plotting, slow, nasty tactics of it all.
Nasty tactics.
And maybe you'll see Ogre Battle 64 in your podcatcher at some point.
I'd be interested.
Also, the other shout out, Exodia. Shouts out Exodia.
Shouts out Exodia. Wherever you are, left leg of Exodia especially, you're always my favorite. Number 1.
It sounds like a brand of skate shoes from like 2004. I think because like Osiris was a band or a brand of skate shoes, and so Exodia feels right there.
The rival brand of Osiris.
Anyway, thank you, Brady.
Thank you.
Hello, gamers. It's me, Chase. I'm here to guide you through the outro. Let's see. If you want to interact with us, you can do so by going to podtimism.com. We have links to our email there, our Twitter, which is pretty much dead, and more appropriately, our link to our Discord, which is where you can come hang out in the Worst Garbage Network Discord. It also has other cool shows like Into the Aether or Frog of the Week or Can't Let It Go. All very good podcasts. So you can come hang out there. We got a little corner. You can chat it up. See the Ding Boy shorts if you want to. They're in there.
They're pinned.
So yeah, it's a good time. Come hang out. Let's see. On that site, you can also check to see if we've played a game that you like before. And you can also suggest a game if you want us to play one that you like. We've got a bunch sitting in our inbox. So certainly no pressure to do so, but we always love seeing it. Even if we're not like covering it right away, it is like really amazing to see like what people are enthused about. So thank you for anybody who has done that already. And thank you to anybody who will do that in the future.
Yes.
I've got both my bases covered.
Present and future.
Let's see. If you want to help out the show, there's a couple things you can do. You can leave a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Those go a long way to help like the algorithm pick the show up and shit and show it to other people. Mm-hmm. But certainly the more effective way is to show to a friend and say, hey, I like Podtimism. Maybe you could too. You ever played Yu-Gi-Oh? Here's a show about it.
Here it is. It's here.
It's much more effective than us just relying on Mark's algorithm or something. Mm-hmm. What else? Thank you, Scout Wilkinson, for your artwork that we are graced with being able to put on our podcast each week. It's very good. You've done a great service. So thank you, Scout.
Thank you for your service.
Thank you for your service, Scout. If you want to check out Scout's stuff and what she's doing, you can go to ko-fi.com/humblegoat and you can see if she's got any commissions open. I don't see any open right now, so you'll just have to wait, but keep an eye on that space.
Worth the wait.
Worth the wait. She really does great commissions. I just saw some of her work for Another Thing, and it's great. So thank you, Scout. Mm-hmm. Finally, the last person to thank, it's listeners like you. sorry to go PBS pilled on me.
I know, right? What happened there?
Look at me PBS maxing.
Is Big Bird going to come out of nowhere now?
No, thank you for listening. You do us a great service by hanging out here and spending your hard-earned ear minutes with us. You don't have to listen to this pod, but you chose to. So thanks for doing that. We love making the show, and we are happy that people check in and chime in and see what's going on. So thank you. Thank you for doing that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
David, you got any gaming wisdom for me?
Gaming wisdom?
Yeah. You said it like we've never done this segment before.
What is that?
What a concept. I love that.
Yeah, if some sketchy guy comes out of a large corporation's headquarters like, come on in. We got some really experimental stuff for you to come in and try. Even if you're with your homies and you have the soul of an ancient pharaoh inside of you, maybe think twice.
I would maybe not.
Think twice. Also, heed the pharaoh's warning. I think that also goes without saying for most things. If a pharaoh is warning you of something, heed those words.
You need to heed. I've got the need for heed.
I got
David.
the need to heed, baby. Tell me what to do, Pharaoh.
The newest Need for Speed reboot was really weird.
It's very strange. You're just going around asking people to tell you to do things.
I'm heeding any warning that will be told to me. Pardon me, do you have any lost pharaohs that are stuck in your body that I might heed the warning of?
Do they have warnings for anything? Scarab beetles? Please, I want to hear it.
I want to hear it all. Press A to heed.
Press A to heed. My goodness.
I've got the need for heed, David.
It's a quick time event. There's only one button is heed, and you have to choose which one it is before time runs out. There's heed, there's need, there's speed, there's greed.
And, of course, there's Creed, David.
You press it and just, can you take me higher, starts playing immediately.
I heard the news.
That's the other way to beat the quick time event. You could either press heed or Creed. They will also accept Creed as an answer always.
Yeah, it's always an option.
Oh, man. I do accept Creed.
I do, too. I heed Creed, for sure.
I heed Creed. Ooh, got the heedance for credence.
Oh, boy. We got to stop this episode. It's flying off the rails, David.
It's becoming another Creed cast.
Yeah. All right. Well, see you later. See you next week.
Yep. See ya.
Bye.
TWG, the worst garbage, online.